Great. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Ward Wijstra, and you're here at our 4 monthly What's New in Simplifier and Forge webinar. Thank you very much for joining. Thanks for being here. Um, this is really a meeting for you, all our customers, to hear first what's coming up and give feedback, and where we demo and show everything that we've developed over the last 4 months. This meeting will be recorded. I have a few introduction information here. So recordings and slides are all available. I will send them around to. I hope you're on the email list. Otherwise, please let me know. You're probably somewhere in our system marked as that you don't want to receive our emails. These slides and the recordings are all available. If you don't want to be on the recording, just you can even ask questions anonymously in the Q&A, so you will not be in the recording if you don't want to. As I said, the goal is really to show what we've worked on the last 4 months, and discuss what's next, and also in that order. We do this every 4 months, kind of following the working group meetings from HL7. So last week there was this virtual working group meeting from HL7 that we attended. So I'll also put a bit of a summary in this talk from what we've learned from there. You can always contact us always outside this meeting too. My email, my contact details are here directly, but also our support is the best place to get any of your questions quickly answered and within your service level agreements too. So please reach out also after this talk. This is the agenda for today. On the introductional side, I'll just quickly cover some Fire events going on and some showcase projects from Simplifier. And then we'll dive into what's new. We have a little demo from Rob, who's been working on improvements to the rendering of Fire resources. I will do a little demo of what we've improved in implementation guide templating. And we even have a special guest presentation here from NHS England, who have been working implementing these templates within their UK core implementation guide. So very grateful for Adam for being here. I'll show a few more cutting edge things that are probably going live in beta at some point. And then we'll just cover planned development and open up the floor for any questions. You can also ask any questions already now within the Q&A or within the Zoom chat. You can even raise your hands if you want to speak up at any point during the presentation. Just to cover what we're talking about today, we're really talking about those yellow things here on screen: Forge, Fire Terminal, Simplifier. Really the Fire data modeling cycle of developing Fire data models, documenting them, publishing them to the world, and getting feedback on them. That's really this cycle here on the left. Farley also has all kinds of other tools, like Farley Server to implement your Fire data model in the cloud or on your own on-premise, and also the .NET SDK, which is our open source implementation of Fire within the .NET programming language, which underlies all of our tooling. So we're really focusing on this today, but feel free to reach out with any other questions. Then on the events section, so we just last week had a working group meeting. I'll give updates in a moment. But also in May, there's another working group meeting in Dallas, Texas. I'll be there, so if you want to meet up there, that'd be awesome. Same for Fire Dev Days. The registrations are open for Fire Dev Days. It's in Minneapolis, just a few weeks after the working group meeting. So meet us up there, and we're now reviewing the talks. We just closed the call for proposals. We have about 120 submissions for the call for proposals, and that's on top of our already invited speakers with all the tutorials and Let's Build. So we have a lot of reviewing to do, but the program is going to be awesome. Again, there's a lot of AI and a lot of other measurements and CQL stuff already submitted. Then there's a lot of other events that Farley will be there. Again, reach out if you're there and want to meet up. Five, HIMSS, DEMEA, and Health. From the working group from last week, I just put a few summary points that I had from there. I joined the fire management group together with Ewout. That's not really from the working group meeting, but I guess still relevant. So if you have anything regarding the general management of the fire specification itself, you can also reach out to me now. And we have Alexander, my colleague, who is in the technical steering committee from HL7. So this is not Firely, but this is more on the HL7 level, helping the standard to improve. In the same boat, these are some updates from Fire R6. You've all seen R4B and R5 come out. I think there was a big survey from Graham on for the implementer community. I think the general consensus is that many people are sticking with R4 and waiting for the R6 release. And R6 is really going to be a milestone release, kind of feeling like a long-term stable support release with a lot of new resources going normative, just like in R4. The first ballot is already out, so you can have a look at it, but generally implementers have indicated that they are not in a hurry to upgrade to that. Many have just started with R4 or maybe some brave R4B and R5 developments. So R6 is now only planned for the first half of 2026. Yeah, many resources will be normative or forward compatible. So, but generally, if you start now, you shouldn't wait for it. And I also wouldn't start implementing on R6 now. I should just take whatever version makes sense for you at this point. Work is underway to more formally support cross-version extensions. So if you want to use an element from a resource, or maybe a full resource or data type that is not yet in, let's say, Fire R4, there has always been a standardized way in principle to do that with these cross-version extensions. But they're formalizing that more and also making available all those extensions where possible. So if you want to use let's say, a codable reference from R5 within R4, there is going to be a standardized way to do that, and the Fire community is working on that. In the same boat, there is this fire.org/diff, where you can easily see differences between the different Fire versions for each resource. So a useful resource if you want to play around with that and look into that. And finally, there's a terminology registry. So Graham has formalized the documentation for that. And there have always been some Fire terminology servers out there, but this is kind of a guidepost or to help you find which terminology server is authoritative for a specific code system. So eventually you should be able to point to that and ask that thing, hey, I have a Loin code here. I don't know this code system. Give me the terminology server that's authoritative for Loin. And then it could give you that answer, and then you can maybe download Loin from there, or you can negotiate with Loin how to get access to that, or maybe send the code there to validate it. So it's a kind of a federated terminology system that they're setting up there. So that's just some cutting edge information from the last working group meeting. Then two things from Firely. We have made some online trainings available for free. We have a lot of trainings on just our website, fire.ly/training. There's a lot of great in-house trainings or open trainings that you can sign up for. But we also made these two e-learnings available for free. So you can just go to firely/training and find them and register for free. And especially the left one, I think, is very relevant for everyone here on the call, or maybe your colleagues you want to onboard. So that's the Fire profiling introduction course, and it really takes you through using Simplifier and Forge to develop your own Fire resources. Let's say I see we have a question from Adam. How would the terminology registry work with country jurisdictions such as NHS Clinical? I think there's a lot of parameters in there in that terminology registry. So I think there's probably a way to indicate that. I'm sure they thought about that. Yeah, we can dive into the specific of the registry later, but I assume there's a parameter for that. Then some showcase projects from Simplifier. We're slowly zooming in from the whole Fire world to Simplifier now. I chose this time 2 customers to highlight that went into production with their Fire system for which they developed the Fire data model on Simplifier. I'm really proud of that. So on the left we have SAP. SAP already had their data model for ISH MET on there. But now they've also developed this new system completely built from the ground up to work with Fire called SAP Help Data Services for Fire. And they have a bunch of sample data for that on Simplifier to play around with it. So you can find this on Simplifier and also click through there to the explanation of the product. And then on the right, we have Project Ronin from the US. And Project Ronin is building this cancer platform with a lot of great cancer models and better ways to treat your cancer patients within your hospital. And they've just published their application on the Cerner App Store. So if you're in a Cerner hospital, you can download this within your hospital setting. And the data model that they're using there for this is being developed on Simplifier, though it's not publicly available, but you can publicly see their application and the description of that. So congratulations to both of them. And if you have any other showcase projects for next webinars, let me know. Good. That's it for the introduction side. And then let's continue with what's new on Simplifier. And first of all, I want to give it to Rob, who has been working a lot on the rendering of our resources. So you see the little tree rendering here and improvements to that. So I think I need to stop sharing here and pass it on to Rob.
Thank you, Ward. I'm going to share my screen.
Great. The first improvement was already on my screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. So apart from smaller bugs and styling issues, we did some work on some bigger features. So the most obvious one is the ability to show common resource elements. So there's a button to allow you to turn or switch them on or off. So this will allow you to switch between those 2 settings. You can see them either in hybrid mode or snapshot mode. And differential mode, there's not much because you only see the elements that are constrained. So this will allow you to either hide or show common resource elements. Some smaller things we've done is make the tree rendering more consistent with either Forge or the HL7 standard. So we have little tooltips here. We have the correct icon for complex extensions. And for R4B and R5, we now have the codable reference, which now shows up properly with the correct icons in front of it. So those are all little tweaks on the resource rendering or the tree view of the resource rendering.
Nice, Rob. And I think a lot of these issues all came directly from customers who have reported these bugs, right? These elements are missing, or these new data types.
Yes, so most improvements are based on issues that were reported by customers.
Yeah, wonderful. And this is not yet released, so you're demoing in your developer environment, but this is coming with the release in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Good. Perfect.
So I want to show three actually improvements on the rendering of certain resource types. So this is a value set. We've added the designation information for value sets, so they're shown in columns.
Those are the translations, yeah.
So synonym, abbreviation, and plural, those are the actual designations. So for example, this one, synonym with the value ample. But they're also related to languages, of course. So if you have multiple languages in here, you will get additional columns here with the same designation header, but with different language specifications. So SV is, I think, for Swedish.
Yeah, Sverige, I guess so.
Okay, looks like it.
Yeah.
The second one I want to show you is the capability statement. So if you had a REST section for both server and client, it was not very obvious where the server bit started and the client bit, because the actual header for the client was missing. So we now added, so this is the default. It specifies server. This is actually not a one, I think, with a client section as well. But if you have a client section, it will be visible with a nice header. The second part we added is operations per resource type that was previously missing. So we now have this in our rendering of the capability statement. All right. The last one I want to show you is that we now have a specific rendering for message definition. So previously this was shown in a tree view, just like a patient or any other profile. So we have on request added a specific rendering for a message definition. It's showing here the actual URI, but it's because my resource is in a project that doesn't have all the references, so it will visualize a link if you have the correct references in your project. And as a segue for this, we are working on trying to make the rendering of resources more generic and more accessible to make changes to it. So we are investigating Liquid as a tool or mechanism for rendering resources. So this is an example for a message definition. So Liquid allows you to specify HTML with some tags that, if you will, allow you to program your template to include certain data in the output. So in this case, we have this message definition. So you have all your elements defined here. So focus, and title, and what you have not. And you can reference those in your template like this. You have some options to manipulate that. So in this case, it's gonna create HTML from Markdown and strip some spaces from it. And this will allow you to make a template for very specific resource types. And then the output will be, hang on, that's the wrong one. The output will be HTML with data from your resource included. And this is how it would look like when there's no styling applied to it. But that's a technique we're investigating and working out to see if we can use that in the future.
Yeah, this is awesome, Rob. I think it's going to allow us to give a lot more renderings for a specific resource-specific renderings for many different resources. Like I've been playing around with questionnaires and capability statements and message definitions. I think Adam has a good point in the chat that the tree rendering is also still very useful. So maybe we should look at being able to show both choose what you want to see. So that's a good point. I think good point of feedback. I think the first start will be that we at Firely can more easily define these liquid templates, so we don't have to bother our development team with that. But potentially we can even at some point allow you as a customer to write these liquid templates. But until then, you can just report to us like, hey, I'm missing this. And once we have this in production, it should be more easy for us to add an extra element or tune the rendering a bit.
Yeah, so we're not trying to enforce the use of liquid templates, so it's an option. So everything that is available right now will still be available. This is just an additional option that you could use for rendering your resources.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a really nice addition could also be that we can at some point maybe even standardize this and use this to fill the narrative of a resource. I know not many people are currently filling narratives, but there are some really wise people within the Fire community who say that that's eventually going to bite us if you send a resource to someone who really needs to understand that, but their system doesn't know the specific resource type or the profile. It can be really useful to have a simple HTML rendering of everything they need to know, so they can at least interpret you when you come there with your USB stick with your personal data on there, and they need to treat you. So yeah, that's something that we're going to explore. Thanks, Rob. Really nice. And all rendering feedback, of course, welcome. This is coming with a new release. Then the next thing I want to show is the implementation guide templating. We've already been covering this in our previous webinars where we've showed you that you can define variables on the top level of your page, and then you can use them within your widgets. And you could already create other templates within pages with those widgets. But now we've kind of completed that effort with also being able to use variables within your FQL. So this sounds all like mumbo jumbo, I understand. So let's dive into our implementation guide here. So I have a little implementation guide built here to look as much like the HL7 template as possible. I can quickly show you what it looks like from the front end. So this is contrary to what you think, really a simplifier implementation guide. This is the URL here. And this is where I try to mimic basically the rendering of the core Fire specification. So you see this is the page about the patient, the Fire patient. There's a little description here of the patient, some human readable markdown description, some comma separated list here of other resources that refer to this resource. There's these widgets with the different views, XML and JSON, etc. The differential, and some FQL tables here with terminology bindings and constraints. So this is what the front end of the page looks like. So now let's see what the editing looks like. So here I have the same page open within my editor. We can here on top define variables as we've previously seen. So I have defined that this entire page is about this canonical, the patient, and that's within my scope of the core Fire package here. I also set here on the top level that all my trees should expand to the maximum level. And then, well, of course, we've seen before that you can make a nice tabbed widget here. So I have the little tab with the tree in there and the XML and the JSON. And we don't need to use the canonical parameter there anymore because we defined that once on top of the page. And now we can also see that if we use FQL, we can also use the same parameter in there. So also no need to specify the canonical here again. We can only do that once, only need to do that once on top of the page. And then we can get a nice, this is an FQL statement to get all terminology bindings within our resource. And here I have another FQL table with getting all the constraints from this resource. And you can understand that I can easily put this now in a separate page and then use this both within my patient page and my organization page, etc. And All I need to do is define different canonicals for those different pages, and then I don't need to write my FQL every time again. I can also, if I want to update the FQL statement, I can do that everywhere at once. So that's the one thing. We can use these variables now in FQL. And the other quick thing I want to show, Joni is asking whether this is available to everyone. Yes, this is live already and available to everyone on production. So you can play around with that. I wrote a little blog post on how to do it. I can give the link to that in a moment. I just wanted to show that on top of being able to use these parameters within FQL, these variables, you can also give different output formats right now. So the little description here about what's in my resource, that's something that's actually coming from my profile. And I, of course, don't want to copy and paste that here because it would get out of sync. So I use FQL to derive that. So just select the description for my resource. But instead of putting a table around this, which is completely unnecessary for one output, I just say the output needs to be inline rather than a table. And then it will omit any table around it. So you can just use it within a sentence even and show it here. So that's really cool. And that works very well if you get one cell of output, basically, one value of output. If you get a list of output, so one column, the inline output can also be used. And in this case, I've also defined the delimiter. So we have a column and we want to show that column inline. In this case, these are all the different resources that refer to my canonical. And I've set to print them with a comma between them. And that's this table here that we get with comma separated. Comma is the default also, so I could have left that out, but we can also use a dash in between here if you think that's prettier. Or let's wait until that renders. We can also say, okay, maybe this entire list that I'm getting, I don't want to show it as a in one line, but I want to make a nice ordered list or an unordered list out of that. So yeah, now we see it with the dashes in between. If I say UL here for unordered list, and this is all in the documentation, of course, and hit refresh. And now instead of pasting this all on one line, we get a nice long list with bullets like this. So different output formats for your FQL and also be able to use your parameters in FQL. Okay, that's all nice and all theoretically nice, but I think it would be really useful to see how this can be used in practice in a real life-size implementation guide. And that's where we found Adam willing to show us how UK Core and NHS England is using this for UK Core and other implementation guides. So Adam, welcome. And are you able to share your screen?
Yep, give me a second. That one over there. Okay, so I'll give you a quick journey of UK Core. So UK Core is published by HL7 UK. It's for fire across all 4 nations of UK, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. We've gone through 2 ballots so far, and we work in a development sequence. So STU1 was our first ballot sequence, STU2 is our second, STU3 is our third. With the first ballot, what we did, there was no FQL at the time, no templating, so we typed out all the description, all the purpose. And you can see, filled up quite a lot of the screen. For the second ballot, we went with FQL, which nice and simple, but we did have to put in the profile names. And for the third sequence, we've now got access to the templating. And where we had all our tabs, all our FQL, we've now got them in a single template. And that template has, finishes loading, has the FQL for pulling out our top box, which has our URL, our description, has our FQL for pulling out our purpose. We don't use the file tabs, we use our own custom ones. We've got the same as Ward has, where we're pulling in the variable for the canonical URL. And we've got some additional FQL similar to what Wad's got on his template, which pull in the derived profiles, any extensions, and any references to these profiles. And then we have one which creates a feedback link, which goes directly to the Filey tab on Simplifier for providing them feedback. And these have our FQL with our variables in. So this one builds up our link with our little variables using the inline and our node delimiter to make sure there's nothing there. And what it does, produces a really nice output. So we do a custom CSS on our table. And then we have tabs which have our link but straight in. So all our pages now, can find the right editor, are done via 3 variables. So we have our canonical URL to our profile, a URL for the one that we're replacing, and a little one just to get the description. We're still building up the template, so you can see that we could replace that one. And the only thing we actually have to manually code now as UK Core is the list of examples for our profiles. Everything else comes directly out of our profile and our template.
Wonderful, Adam. I think this is really nice to see, and also a really creative use of indeed custom variables in there. Another thing people may not yet be familiar with is these hidden pages. So in your implementation guide editor, you see the little grayed out pages. Those are hidden pages. If you hit the little octopus on the top there, that's toggling on or off the hidden pages. So if you want to see them or not. So it's really useful indeed if you make a template to make them a hidden page so they don't show up in your regular implementation guide, but you can use them within all of your pages.
Yep. The UK Core now uses templating for extensions, profiles, value sets, code systems, and examples. So anywhere where we can template the common features of all our pages, we have done.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think for the issue page, actually, we are working on a little widget for you to make that a little bit easier. This is a really nice use.
But for example, a value set now is 7 lines.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah. And nice and consistent, easy to edit your template in one place and then apply to all. Great. Thanks. Anything else you want to show, or shall I take it back?
You can take it back.
Wonderful. Let me share my screen again. Thank you so much, Adam. That was wonderful. Great. So I see that there's a question from Tarek in the Q&A. Matthijs is typing an answer. Whether we are considering IG export to PDF format. I think it's not something currently on our list. I think we do have export of your implementation guides as a website, basically, to download a folder. This is something that we currently only have for the editable version of your guide or the preview guide. And it's also currently only available to anyone who has rights on your project, like who's a project member. This is something that we're going to expand in the future, where you can allow downloading for anyone who has access to your project. So if it's a public project, that means everyone, of course. And also allow this also for published guides. And probably this is going to be a setting on your project, whether you want people to be able to download your guide or not. So I think I hope that helps a bit with your distributing of downloadable implementation guides. I should say that we are a fan of keeping them online, because there is a lot more that we can help you with if you keep them online, like sending people there if they ask for the documentation for a specific resource, or we're also working on helping you set up a banner for for this is or this is not the latest version of the implementation guide that is published. So I think the experience is generally going to be better online. I understand that's not some people might not be looking for that. Good. Then two more forward-looking things. So I may have mentioned this already, but we have started tracking some statistics on your resources to eventually be able to give you a nice dashboard, like how popular are your resources, so you can tell your boss or your funder. In October, we started this off with tracking package downloads and package views. And here on the right, I'm showing some preliminary results from that. I've taken, I hope the people from KBV don't mind, but I've taken some download statistics here from the packages from KBV. They're very popular German packages. And you see the different packages over time. So their base package is the most popular, and then there's other packages over time. Luckily, no one is downloading it. Oh, well, not everyone is downloading at Christmas. Less people are downloading over Christmas. And you see also, if we zoom into the base package, KBV Basis, that which versions are popular over time. So I think this is something that many of you have been asking for a while. Like, can I see how popular my resources are? We are working on at least collecting that data first. So we have started collecting package data since October. We are currently working on using that data also within search ranking, so that if someone is looking for a certain resource, that we prioritize the more popular resources over the less popular resources, because they're probably better and probably what people are looking for. In the next stage, also with the coming release, we also start tracking the views and downloads for projects and project files, the views of implementation guides and their pages, both preview guides and published guides, and the views for organizations. Of course, we first need to start tracking before we can show you anything. So that's the first stage. We start collecting data for a while, and then have a conversation with you to see what's most important to you to show, play around with some dashboards, and eventually this will make it to a view for you to see how popular your different resources are. That's one thing that is behind the scenes working on. The other thing that is also very early stages, but I just wanted to tease this and also get you thinking about this, is our an online resource editor. So we have, of course, Forge for real full graphical editing of Fire profiles, but there's also a lot of resources that there is not a graphical editor for yet, and also Fire Shorthand has become very popular with people. So combining this and also making it easier for people to run it in the browser, we have been working on a little online file editor. Can I quickly start from my project again? So I have a little project here. This is not live yet, so you cannot play around with this yet. But in this project, I have a bunch of fish files, like this one here with some aliases. And I also have some JSON files with here's some profiles that I already developed. And if I go on this project now, and again, this is not available to you yet, but this is how it currently works in our ideas. I can go to that experimental editor directly within the cloud, within my Simplifier project. And here I can select a resource from the left, like, let's say, these simple extensions defined in Fire Shorthand. Just like in Fire Shorthand Playground, I can make a change in here easily, like required maybe. Let's make that preferred. And it will directly run Sushi, and now it's a preferred binding. We can see the JSON, the XML, and maybe I can also directly save this here. So I can say, okay, this is going to be in my extensions folder under generated/fish. And now I should be able to see those resources also within my project directly saved back to Simplifier. This is the first attempt, a playground. So just basically an idea to couple our current playgrounds with directly editing on your project. We can also do this for JSON and XML, where in the middle we have JSON XML. Maybe we should show you the rendering, but also directly the validation. So if I make any mistake here, I guess if I we can directly get the output here to see that anything is wrong with my resource. So this is just an experimental setup, but hopefully making it easier for you to work with our shorthand and work with editing resources very quickly in the cloud without needing to download it to local machines. Great question, Joni. When will it be available? I think we're going to make this available in beta for our selected beta users in the next release. I should say there's a lot of rough edges right now, but anyone who wants to play around with it, please do reach out, and we'd be happy to get your feedback on it. I don't have concrete timelines when we have a full-fledged editor, but this is something that we are definitely interested in and we're going to work on over time. Speaking of what we're going to do, let's move on to the planned developments. This is what we have on the agenda right now. And of course, we welcome your input and feedback in this current session, but also we're always happy to meet with you, hear about your story, what you're doing with Simplifier. So I'll put my contact details on the end again. What's of course going to come soon is our upcoming release with the rendering improvements that Rob has shown, with the search ranking based on popularity, with the behind-the-scenes tracking of popularity of all your other Fire resources, and perhaps beta access for the editor for some people. Then what's next? We're working on some really big things behind the scenes, and it's basically to make a lot of the things that are possible within public packages also available for private packages. That includes, and we call the private package feeds as a term, but what will it mean for you? Well, it means that you can use your private package as the scope for your implementation guides, that you can use your private packages to build another guide on, and that you can also download your private packages via the package API. So that's a big thing that we're working on, and then also being able to download your published guides, what I mentioned before to Tarek. So that's currently it, and then I would open it up to anyone on the floor. I'll put my contact details already here and mention that the recording will be shared. In the meantime, I see there's some questions. One from Tarek. Any suggestions on getting PDFs? I'm not sure if anyone on the call here has an experience with getting a website converting it to PDF. Otherwise, we can look at that together, Tarek. Happy to.
Yeah, I was looking at it for Tarek.
Okay.
There's some
perfect.
HTML to PDF converters.
Yeah, wonderful. Question by John. Can your cloud-based fish editor be linked to a Git repo? Yeah, this is just what I showed was just an editor working on your Simplifier project. And so Simplifier projects can already be connected to Git repos. That's currently a one-way synchronization. But we're working on making that two-way synchronization. That's another big behind-the-scenes development project that we're working on, being able to commit back to GitHub from your Simplifier project. But that's eventually also in the planning. And of course, quite an important piece once you start editing even more things within your Simplifier project. If you're working with a source repo, you should of course be able to sync back to that source repo. So that's definitely an important thing to do. Yeah. If there are any other questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat. And we'll be hanging out here for a moment. To anyone else who feels like dropping off, thank you very much. Really appreciate you sticking with us, and your feedback is very welcome to us. Please reach out. My contact details are here. If you want to meet up, discuss, that's always very welcome. And otherwise, we see you back again here in 4 months for the next webinar. Thank you. And we'll stick around if anyone has any other questions. Adam, yeah, feel free to speak up.
From your template guide project,
Yeah.
you've got the bit that creates the terminology bindings table. Is
Yeah.
there a way you can make that go to a page link? So you're pulling out the value set.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to make that go to a page on a project?
Let's see. So where's my editing here? Terminology.
Subject there, yeah.
Yeah, right now this is
I think it just gives you the URL, doesn't it?
yeah, URL, and this is a resolve URL, so this will, given the current scope and given the canonical, will bring you to the right page on Simplifier.
It
So
takes
this
you to
case,
the asset, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Not the actual page. Right.
Yeah, this is currently indeed a package page. Another thing that we have a lot of infrastructure for already is that we are gonna enhance the resolve URL with basically a target parameter where we will say,
do you want the asset or do you want the guidance?
exactly that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do you want the resource or do you want the documentation? And that's exactly also why it's important to define on top here, this page is about this canonical URL.
Am I better using subject or canonical there?
That's a great question. I think subject is basically a synonym for canonical or name right now. So if you use subject with a canonical, I think you're probably fine. Yeah, I see Paul nodding. So yeah.
Yep,
Good.
marvelous.
Yes. Wonderful. Great. Yeah. No, eventually, indeed, we hope that we can, for every canonical and every scope, tell like the documentation lives here, even if the guide wasn't developed on Simplifier. There's still like implementation guide resources within packages that we can maybe use to work with this. Yeah. Great. I see no more questions coming in. So then I'm just going to thank everyone and have a great day.